Get out this man's car. Why are you trying to stay on this man's car?
Men are facing charges after a car theft, well, didn't go quite as planned.
These carjackers thought they had their dirty hands on good loot, but the drivers and the police knew how to stop them dead in their tracks. The failed blocking maneuver. A few seconds after this, Hellcat had parked in the driveway. A strange car popped up on the scene. The driver was smart. He didn't get out and decided to wait and see what the vehicle wanted. The crooks didn't bother getting out either. The two cars stayed put for a few seconds until the driver decided to break the silence. He rammed on his horn and tried to back out of the driveway. That's when the crooks jumped in on the action and tried blocking him in. They even crashed into the Hellcat a few times in an attempt to stop him, but the driver slid past and got away. The attacking duo. Seeing the flashy Lamborghini, a couple of crooks followed the car owner back home. The car owner had some good instincts and instantly went into fight mode. The two crooks tried everything to wiggle the keys out of the driver's hands, but they had no luck. The driver fought back, throwing punches and smacking them. Eventually, the crooks gave up and fled the scene. The feeble attempt. This guy had just arrived at his home when a creepy car parked behind him. A scrawny robber got out to try and ambush the vehicle, but the driver was 10 steps ahead of him. He hit reverse and wrecked the crook's getaway car from the rear end. The driver crushed his hopes by speeding up and trying to hit the crooks again. The dancing thieves. This car was driving on an empty road when the driver spotted a group of hooligans a few feet away. He slowed down at first, but then rightly got suspicious. As he tried to bolt the scene, crooks ambushed the vehicle. To his surprise, one of the robbers started dancing in front of the driver, while a couple of them hopped onto the car's hood and rushed towards the driver's seat. The driver knew better than to stay around. He slammed hard on the gas, reversed, and then raced forward to flee the scene. The blaring alarm. The homeowner got into his running car at night, having no clue that he was a target on the robber's radar. A car raced up on the street and parked on the opposite end. 3 masked men got out and ambushed the driver from both sides. The trio started wrestling with the driver as he screamed for help. They spent a few good minutes on the brawl, but luck simply wasn't on their side. To make matters worse for them, the driver had found the panic button and slammed it hard. The siren went off, and that was enough to send the crooks scrambling away in panic. Boy, that was embarrassing. 2 crooks drove up to this house to steal the parked Lexus. One of them was in their getaway car, while the other was recorded pacing around in the driveway. Finding the coast clear, the crook tried to tamper with the Lexus. Seeing his buddy failing miserably, the other crook marched up the driveway to join in on the action. But his attempts were just as pathetic. The two were busy for a long time until the crooks finally broke into the car. But just as the engine roared, the homeowner was up too. She started yelling from the window, getting the crooks all panicky. The thug got out of the car, and the duo frantically began to run back to their getaway car. The smart comeback. A couple of car thieves saw their target in a driveway and stopped in their tracks. One of them stood outside for the lookout, while the other crept up to the porch. He carried a scanner to amplify the signal and break into the keyless car. He circled around the house to try and catch a signal from the keys sitting inside. But what he didn't know was that he was wasting his time. The car owner had kept his keys inside a Faraday pouch. That meant the thieves were making a fool of themselves on the camera. The wrong car to steal. This guy was onto something that only he knew. He tried to steal a car while people were sitting inside. He walked up to the car and tried to pull open the door. A woman and her 3 kids were sitting inside and got pretty frightened. The mother hit the reverse and swerved out of the driveway. The crook tried to strike again, but retrieved after a second thought. The grand entrance. 3 crooks dropped by a house to get this Jeep in their loot bag, but things turned downhill quite fast. 2 waited by the curb, while 1 marched up to the driveway. He started tampering under the hood as soon as he got to the car. The crook then brought a drill to sneak inside the passenger's seat. The crook had no clue that the homeowner was watching his feeble attempts through the camera. While he was busy messing up the wires in the glove box, the homeowner called the cops on him. Seconds later, the cops were recorded darting after the crooks. Poor attempts stopped twice. A couple of robbers raided the gas station, spotting the 2 vehicles parked at the pump. They first raced to the SUV on the other side, but the driver was quick on his feet. He drove away. Realizing that the SUV was long lost, they frantically entered the sports car. But one woman was enough to stop the dumb robbers. The lurkers on motorbikes. This Bugatti driver was stuck in a bit of a traffic jam when a motorcycle parked beside him. The crook had a hammer handy that he wasn't shy of using on the car window. Well, I guess he tried. This knucklehead was trying to steal a car in broad daylight in front of passers-by. The footage shows the man walking up to the Porsche and taking a peek inside. Then, he grabs his knife and pokes a hole into the car's convertible roof. He went on to make a man-sized hole to slide inside the car. Just then, the vehicle's alarms go off, but even that does nothing to the unfazed robber. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't start the car. The quick send-off. This guy was trying to amplify the signal to a keyless BMW. The keys were sitting at the house, and these crooks thought they had a chance. But the loyal dog returned the duo to their sorry places within seconds. Brain vs. Brawn. This guy was sitting in his orange Bentley SUV when a couple of crooks ambushed him. The duo started a fight with the driver, throwing a few punches and then tossing him out of the car. But here is why they failed. The driver had the keys on him. He ran away with the keys, leaving the boneheads wondering where they went wrong. Amateurs in action. A strange car had parked behind a BMW to try and ambush the driver. Luckily, the driver knew within seconds what was going to happen. He raced ahead to try and flee. The crooks saw the car running, but decided to get out and still attempted to steal the car. The dumb robbers walked the walk of shame and got back to their getaway car. The frantic escape. These guys came all prepared. The robber's buddy dropped the crook off at the Tesla charging station and drove off, leaving it all to his dumb friend. As cars drove by one, the robber waited for the sweet chance to find the car alone. Once he did, he opened the door and got inside. But he didn't know you can't just break into a Tesla without a key card. He struggled for a few minutes, but nothing worked. The robber was spotted jumping out of the window when he spotted the car owner getting too close. But the owner got the crook's face on the Tesla cam, plain as the day. The sweet revenge. This guy was driving down an empty street and about to regret it. Several car thieves cut him off and blocked the driver's path. Masked men getting out of that vehicle was enough to hint the driver. He hit reverse and pulled back at a fast speed. The hasty runner. A thief had sneaked into a vehicle and betrayed his own friends. The thug slammed his friend just as he opened the door, throwing him on the ground. The driver hastily got up to rescue his vehicle, but was slammed by the crook too. The driver and the other robber joined forces, banging at the car window. But the robber was on a different level. He hit the gas and blazed out of the exit. The Porsche thief. This guy was on the run from the police in a high-speed chase. He was trying pretty hard to get the cops off of his tail, but the police had other plans. They had a watchful eye on the crook trying to drive past the roads at a blazing speed. He took a wrong turn to throw off the cops, but ended up crashing onto the roadside. He sped up only to find his path blocked by the cops. He didn't give up, blasted the fires, and tried to run off like he was in GTA. But all this grandeur cost him a tire. The car crashed, and the crook tried to flee on foot, but the cops were already on him. That was quick. The driver was getting inside his car when a group of car thieves ambushed him on his side. They wrestled with the driver, pulled him out, and threw him on the ground. The panic-stricken driver ran to the other side to enter his vehicle, but another crook had already sat inside. He raced back into his house to call the cops, but didn't have to do all that. His car put up enough defense, and the dumb robbers had no clue how to drive. The vehicle is alive. These two knuckleheads walked up to the BMW X5, left unattended in the driveway. But the duo had no clue that stealing this car was about to be their demise. One of them tried to catch a signal to the car, while the other hopped inside on the driver's seat. The crook in the driveway was busy keeping a lookout, while the other tried to figure out how to get the car started. Sadly for them, the vehicle betrayed them. It roared at the exact moment the crook kick-started the car. The flashing beam ignited the whole driveway and made the robbers panic. One of them didn't even wait around to see what happened next. The homeowner woke up to tell off the other thug from his window. Karen tried to act cool, but a few seconds later, he was recorded stumbling and running. Maybe don't try next time. In the wee hours of the night, this guy popped up near the house and walked to the parked Audi. He tried playing with the car lock for a few seconds, but luck wasn't by his side. The owner didn't even have to come and stop the theft. The crook had already accepted his fate. He sprinted out of the driveway and bolted. A little help from the neighbors. A crook had somehow barged into the Tesla and was spotted fighting with the driver. The poor man was trying with all his might to push the carjacker out, but he simply couldn't. Spotting the scuffle, a few good Samaritans walked up to the car and started threatening the crook, trying their best to pull him out. But the robber was too stubborn for just having been caught red-handed. Soon enough, the cops arrived and took the robber into custody. The gutsy lady. Two carjackers had spotted their next target. They ran up to the wall and hid behind it to sneak up on the driver. Moments later, the driver walked out with keys jingling in her hand when the thugs ambushed her. They managed to grab the keys from the woman, but she was not in the mood to give up her car. She wrestled with the two robbers and tried to stop them with all her might. It took them some time, but the robbers finally got the car started. Just as they were leaving, the woman clung to them, forcing them to stop. A few seconds into the brawl, a car drove up and stopped right behind them. That gave the woman enough time to snatch back her keys. The car drove off, and the woman took that sweet chance to flee. Sorry, no way out. The police tracked down a stolen BMW in a parking lot. The deputies raced to where the pesky robbers hid and blocked their exits. Spotting the cops, the crooks tried to flee. The plan was to flee while being surrounded by a fleet of cops while a helicopter hovered on top of them. Kudos to their gutsy spirits. They turned around to take the next exit, but a cop awaited them in the narrow alley. The idiots drove back to the same crowded spot, only to find their way blocked again. Had no intention of waving the white flag. He tried to jump off of the hood, but was ambushed by another officer. The duo was arrested right then and there. Fighting couple saves the day. The family had just come home and had left the car running to grab something from inside. They had no clue. A pesky robber had sneaked into the car and was getting away. The wife saw her car moving backward and yelled out to her husband. The hero came running and hopped inside the passenger's seat. He started wrestling with the crook. All the chaos made the robber slam into a fire hydrant. He jumped out and sprinted out of there with the husband trailing after him. The driver's struggling attempt. The driver was away from his car for a few seconds when the two crooks entered the scene. One of them stayed on his motorbike while the other inched closer to the parked Mercedes. The driver had just come back, but he knew he was a bit too late. The robber already had a list of threats ready to say to his victim. The poor driver backed up a few steps, and the robber got into the vehicle. Caving into a second thought, he pushed forward to try and get into his car. The robbers walked away with the Mercedes, leaving the driver shocked. All those efforts in vain. A car had just stopped at the complex when crooks ambushed the poor driver. One of the thugs pulled the driver out of the vehicle and slammed open the trunk. The driver stood helpless as the crooks stuffed the car's trunk with bags of stolen loot. The thug motioned his friends to leave while he got inside the vehicle. It was about to come back and bite him. When the driver tried to get his things from the car, he was scared off by the other crooks. The other carjackers then left the scene. But their buddy was stranded in the empty complex, trying to get the car to start. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. He raced to the trunk, got the bags out, and bolted from the scene, leaving the car behind. Leave it to the pros. This crook stole a BMW, but became the victim of heavy traffic. But his poor driving skills got him to crash the car. The crook had a backup plan ready, and it was a skateboard. He raced to the footpath and tried to run away on the skateboard. But a few pushes on the footpath told him that looking this cool was not his business. He grabbed his board and started running on foot again. Luckily, a vehicle managed to slow him down by blocking his path. The officers raced ahead, circled him, and threw him on the ground to arrest him. The drunk carjacker. The camera recorded a car going off the road and crashing a few feet away. A woman stopped to check in on the accident, but she didn't know it was just a clever ruse to attempt to steal her car. The footage shows an unruly man walking up to her car. Seconds later, the woman was seen fighting off the big man in her vehicle. The crook tried to wrestle, but the woman managed to wiggle her keys out of the ignition. The robber was then recorded darting out of there. The cops arrived at the scene and captured him a few blocks away. The driver's gutsy attempt. 3 crooks had somehow broken inside a Mercedes. The driver was neither happy nor willing to give up his vehicle. The dashcam footage of a different car shows the driver fighting with the robbers. When that didn't work, he clung onto the car door as the crooks sped away with the Mercedes. The driver was spotted hanging on the car door until the Mercedes hit the next intersection. A gang of goons. A bunch of crooks crammed in a clown car parked right beside a vehicle. The robbers got out and banged on the car window. Nobody was inside, but the crooks tried only a few times before giving up. After a few seconds of pathetic struggle, the getaway van was recorded fleeing the scene. Let the house handle it. A few masked men saw the BMW parked in the driveway and got greedy. They parked a few feet away from the driveway and raced to the porch. The duo didn't have a scanner handy and wanted to steal the key card from inside, but the knuckleheads couldn't even get the door to open. Just as they got closer to opening the lock, the alarm went off and a big light flashed in the driveway. The carjackers got all panicky as they hurried out of the driveway and raced back into their getaway car. The Lost Wanderer. This guy was recorded trying his luck with every car in the parking lot. But imagine being this unfortunate that you find all the cars out of your league. He walked all around, opening the doors one by one of multiple, while his mask hid his face. With one car, the crook spent a few good minutes, but that went in vain too. He tried a few times with other cars, but then decided to give up. It just wasn't his kind of game. That's all, folks. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have a lot more coming in for you, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.